Emperor protects. Good morning, everybody. I know I'm a little bit early. What do you know? I see some people have joined me early. Ginger Bear, Stenchgate, In Butler, Flying X-Blade, Green Scythe, Justin, Dragon Lord, Devon. Nice to see you all. Moondog. What's this? Oh man, I forgot. Now I have to go meet. Everyone give AJ Thanksgiving super chats. So when he get it back, he'll still be here. It's true. Yep, every dollar spent will extend the live stream for a minute, as is tradition around here. So I've got in my hot little hand here the errata from the Player's Handbook, and I was just going to have a look at it with you. And Jeremy Crawford has said in the public release of the errata that the errata is now official, and that is in the gift set boxes of the 3 core rulebooks which are being printed this month, and every edition henceforth will include this errata. So this is all canon. Good afternoon. How are things in my half of the world? They're pretty good, actually. Oh, hey, Kedron. Nice to see you. So I've also got some snacks to share with you today. And I meant to do this last week, but unfortunately I ate the snacks before I got to the live stream because I'm weak and I'm also on a diet. So today I'm going to explain to you what a Tim Tam Slam is. And yeah, why it's the most awesome snack ever. Also, New Zealand and kind of Australia's version of the Cheeto, which is Twisties. So I think I might have eaten a Twistie on the stream before, but if you look at this delicious nugget of cheesy corn puff goodness. And they're called Twisties because they're twisty, as you can see. Hey, Walter. So yeah, excuse me if I munch a few twisties. Right. Now this is how you perform a Tim Tam Slam. I'm just going to finish this mouthful so I'm not like completely gross. Those of you who read the Penny Arcade cartoon, they're talking about Tim Tams, smuggling Tim Tams out of the country of Australia. But we have them in New Zealand too. They're made by Arnott's. And it says there's no substitute. So essentially what it is it's 2 cookies with a sort of a chocolatey foam in the middle, and it's completely coated in a thick layer of chocolate. But this is what happens, because the foam stuff in the middle is kind of porous. And New Zealanders and Australians, being the mad geniuses that we are, have figured out that if you bite the 2 corners off on opposite sides, you can use this like a straw, like the Italians use biscotti, right? So you get your cup of coffee, or tea, or whatever. Also delicately bite off either end, like so. And then you do this very classy maneuver, which is to use it like a straw. Now, as I speak, the countdown is ticking, because the inside of this has now become a molten flow of cookie and chocolatey stuff surrounded by a chocolate layer, and as you can see, it's actually starting to dissolve and fall apart in my hand. So you pop this in your mouth, slam it, and it just explodes. So you basically don't even chew. Yeah. So in the bad old days, I would work my way through an entire pack of Tim Tams real quick, which is kind of what us Kiwis do. We just like eat an entire bag of biscuits. Oh yeah, it's super tasty. I'm gonna have another one just for those of you who missed it. So you bite it, You slurp it. And then you slam it. Cheers. So yeah, if you ever come to New Zealand or Australia, get yourself a pack of Tim Tams, the original Tim Tams, slam it. And they come in all sorts of different flavours. Like, you've got just a massive variety of Tim Tam flavours, because obviously it's a very popular biscuit. Oh, sorry, we call them biscuits. Cookie. Very popular cookie. So I had to share that with you. Hey, Stanchscape, thank you. You got Tim Tams at your grocery store? Nice. I imagine so. Oh, I also wanted to share some breaking news, which I found absolutely fascinating. So John Allen Chow, 27, from Alabama, decided to go to the Bay of Bengal and land on an island which is absolutely illegal to land on, because it contains a native people it's called North Sentinel Island, and it contains a native people called the Sentinelese, who are unique in that they want nothing to do with the outside world. They estimate there's about 150 tribe members who exist in a primeval hunter-gatherer state, right? So they're completely self-supporting. They hunt together over this island, which is about the size of Manhattan, and they've got no contact with the outside world. Anybody who tries to contact them gets immediately attacked, right? So this guy went wandering up onto the beach to spread the word of Jesus, I assume. I don't know for sure. And got arrows flung at him, and he carried on walking towards them, and they killed him, and then dragged him by the wrapped rope around his neck and dragged him a little bit up the beach. But people are really worried because this guy has got exposure to the common cold, measles, you know, this sort of stuff, and these people have got no protection whatsoever from any inborn diseases that this guy may have carried. So he may have just murdered 150 people, and in the process got himself killed. Yeah, not just the Indian government, the world forbids people from going there, because they are an untouched, primeval, pristine people. Yeah. I don't know if I haven't seen it absolutely confirmed that he was a missionary, but I think that would be his motivation for going there. And yeah, absolutely a moron. Just an immoral moron too, because he's going to kill people. If you land there, you're going to kill them because of the diseases that you carry. Have we learned nothing? Yeah, so hopefully they're okay. But again, nobody can go in there and retrieve the body. Nobody can go and treat them for any sort of medical conditions that they may develop. Yeah, his body was found on the beach 24 hours. It was seen on the beach 24 hours later. And this guy, yeah, is dead. And the boatman, who are they? The guys who took him over on the boat, the fishermen who took him over on the boat, they got arrested, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, I have to say, I mean, you can argue as much as you want, but that is definitely a case of that being a very, very damaging thing to do. And the motivation to do it, if it was Christianity, is, you know, repeating the genocides of the past. It started with the Spanish invading America and killing off the Native Americans, including the Latino people and the Native Americans and the South Americans, Incas, Aztecs. Millions and millions, 90 million people, reduced down to 10% of their original population. Absolutely devastating. Well, it was intentional, I got to say. Yeah, it's a living. Yeah, it's like Thanksgiving time. I just wanted to remind everybody, somewhat, but this is something that just it not only it flabbergasted me because the Sentinelese people exist still, and it's just sort of I thought about the troglodytes living in a primitive state, you know, and being perfectly fine. and not wanting to interact with anybody and preserving themselves that way. And then I read this and, you know, I'm just like, wow, okay. That's just amazing. What else did I want to talk about? Just the errata, I suppose. So how's everybody doing? You got any plans for Christmas? The Calusa tribes of Florida. Yeah, I mean, it got repeated all across America. It's the thing I have to like laugh about, really, is that you're building a wall to hold out people who, rightfully, that entire continent belongs to the Mexican people. It's their land. They're the native people. What do you think? They arrived from Spain? They only speak Spanish because it was a language that was forced on them. Nobody misses the Aztecs. Well, I do. Yeah, so homebrew settings. What happened on the weekend, well, this week, my campaign, one of my campaigns with my my home group, so to speak, although now we run the game over Discord, they all died. It was a TPK pretty much. There was only 2 or 3 characters that were left over. Long story short, they all got poisoned by a mishap where one of the characters fired a fireball at a massive big crystal of arsenic, which caused a plume of deadly arsenic, chromium gas, and sulfuric acid, which killed a lot of them. And so we decided that, well, I decided that I wasn't going to carry on with the Eberron campaign, and we're going to start a new campaign in the homebrew world setting that me and my friend Ian have made, which is the one we were talking about in that previous live stream, Sithrune. And so that's kicking off a lot earlier than we originally planned. You're getting a CT scan? That's a bit hardcore. Turkey Day. Right. Christmas is too far to plan. Not really. It's not that far off. The Summer Court, yeah. Oh yeah, 30,000 subscribers. Far out. That's pretty hardcore. That's even big by, well, it's entry level by YouTube standards. That's their entry level condition for if you can get a subscriber, what do you call it, membership available for your channel. Question: what's your favourite type of big bad evil guy do you like to put into your campaigns? An undead lich, corrupt king? Very interested in what AJ Pickett likes to build a campaign around. It's different every single time. Warhammer Weekend Times. So sometimes it's a dragon, sometimes it's a noble of some kind, sometimes it's an evil fae. I quite like evil fae actually, and sometimes it's alien threats. Quite often mind flayers and aboliths and other sorts of aberrations. Yeah, things like that. In the last campaign, it was actually one of the inspired. That was the impromptu, yes, TPK, impromptu offspring of one of the player characters. Yeah, he was a Kalashtar who had sex with a goblin barmaid, and she got pregnant, and the baby was growing unnaturally fast, and it was going to end up being an inspired and an enemy of the player characters. But they all died. I'm creating your own setting too. You're calling it Reborn. Cool. I think I've seen some of your stuff. Did you send me some of your stuff? Pretty sure. I get sent a lot of stuff. So, yeah, it's different every time. Oh, there'll definitely be more Planescape stuff. I did have a criticism that the information that I provided on the Dustman was not very in-depth, and that is correct. So I need to, I will address that in future videos and talk a bit more in detail about members of the Dustman in particular, and what happened to the Dustman after the faction war. Although I've stated before that I don't really want to talk about the faction war and assume that the faction war happened even though it's contemporary, it is a adventure path that people should be able to take. So I personally believe that Planescape and the city of Sigil you should encounter it in its original state, and then the Planescape faction war happens as an optional event in the background. If that makes any sense. Will I ever read more Dragonlance? I'll probably reread the Dragonlance actually. It's been decades and decades since I've read them. I am currently reading R.A. Salvatore. I'm reading through pretty much his entire Crystal Burden library. Yeah. So I'm on book 2 at the moment. Well, sorry. Chronologically, I'm on book 2. Yes, I'm going to continue on with the Spelljammer stuff as well, for sure. I'm also going to talk about Ravnica and Magic the Gathering as a larger addition to the multiverse. But I've got a big project coming up which you'll start to see unveiled soon, which is the history of the Forgotten Realms from start to finish, which I don't think anybody's ever actually converted the grand history of the Forgotten Realms into a series of videos. But the start of the Troglodytes video was kind of what you can expect with the grand history of the Realms series. Yes, unfortunately, I have read The Wheel of Time. I wish I hadn't. Well, okay, the first 3 books are good, and then it starts to drag a bit, and then it starts to drag a lot. Time demiplane, distance equals time, 14 feet is equal to 1 day of aging. Wow, that's a good idea. How many TPKs have you had? A few. Yeah, a few. More than I can count, I guess. AJ, in your homebrew setting, how are paladins affected by the older gods? I'm glad you asked. I was just actually talking about that as an option for paladins. I particularly like paladins. I also like the idea of paladins not actually being beholden to a god, but an ideal, such as clan, a family crest, their personal honor, a quest for, if they're a dragonborn, perhaps a quest for gold to provide nests for the bones of their elders so they may rest eternally. Like, I like the idea of dragonborn living on, sleeping on gold, for instance. So they don't necessarily have to be tied to any particular god. In this particular setting, as we know, the gods are dystopian, to say the least. So I like the idea of paladins who follow these gods, the old gods and the new gods, and they're kind of twisted. And you can play twisted characters in this campaign. It's murder hobo friendly, and you can play kind of warped and twisted characters as well. Yeah, if you were a part of the dwarven civilization, for instance, you can play a kind of a steampunk paladin in a way. They're very much if you're familiar with Warhammer 40k, there's a branch of the Space Marines who they replace their body parts with metal, and they consider the machines to be superior. Yeah, Jordan does a very good series of history, and he covers certain current events and also certain events in history, but he hasn't done a start to finish series. So, you know me, I'll start doing a series on something and complete as much as I can. Oh, the campaign setting I'm talking about is my homebrewed setting called Sithrune, which is a massive big sort of world continent that's a broken world. It's quite dystopian. It's kind of like Fafnir and the Grey Mouser, Krull, Dark Crystal sort of situation. Like the Dark Crystal is a dystopian broken world as well. Literally a broken crystal that controls everything. So it's got elements of that, and also the sort of the wastelands full of monsters and dangerous things of Conan and classic sort of Gonzo D&D. So it's got elements of like the Lamentations of the Dark, Lamentations of the Flame Princess sort of feel to it, with just all sorts of crazy wonders. Sithrune, that's it. Yep. Adeptus Mechanicus. Yeah. So there's elements of all sorts of different stuff that we've taken from every sort of book that we like, and we just jam it in there. Speaking of Ravnica, I innerly raged at first through my first read of Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica because it could be a Planescape book, but its art made me think of it in another way. Now it feels like home, really. Oh, that's good. So you warmed to it. The Iron Hands. That's them. Hey, Gadzooks, thank you. Have I ever used Yak Folk? They've shown up once, but nobody interacted with them. They were just in the background. So yes, I described them once in a game, but they didn't have a speaking part, so to speak. Though if I was running something in Karatura or something, I'd definitely have Yak Folk. Undead worm made of gears, yeah. Oh, you can thank Gadzooks for bringing us the Iron Fang Fortress video. Sithroon is kind of the land of murder hobos, yeah. It's murder hobo enriched. AJ, just sort of a magical item failure. How do you plan to handle that in your setting? So one of the interesting things is that there's one of the moons. Hey, no spoilers. No Dragonlance spoilers. What has it been, like 20 years, 30 years? So there's a moon, there's a blue moon that when it shines down on the planet, when the other moons are occulted by the planet, when it shines alone, magic stops working. What is the crazier ideas you've had with ropers? Ropers always surprise people in the game. They never expect ropers. And yet I always use ropers. Like, ropers have to show up at least once in a campaign. It's kind of my thing. So ropers, they're very wily. They're quite sneaky. And not just like moving around sneaky, but they know how to lure people in. And when you describe the thing, like I quite like describing monsters theatre of mind style, and then once the players have figured out what they are, then I'll show them the picture out of the monster manual. But at first I just describe it, and they never seem to get what a roper is. It's like there's these tendrils on the ground. Well, a suggestion if you're a patron is as good as a command, really. So. Top drawer. Oh, thank you. Just my monocle. It was top class. Ropers are they're an evolved form of they're the adult form of the spike things that fall from the pierces that fall from the ceiling. What's my favourite guild from Ravnica? I couldn't tell you yet. I'd have to actually get into it. Boros, probably. Oh, actually no. What's the name of the guys that recycle everything? The green and black recycling guild. I quite like them. Not Golgari? No. Is it Golgari? The Piercer, yeah. Yeah. Well, if you're playing something like a warlock or a sorcerer, you kind of do. It is the Golgari. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. If you're playing a sorcerer, you can kind of concentrate on superpowers, right? So you can black and green is Golgari, yeah. Insectoids and horrors. I like all the horror cards. I really want to turn those into monsters. The rot farmers, yeah. Those sort of things I really like in campaigns. I like the bottom feeders, the horrors, the vermin, the insectoids, you know, the slithering, slavering things which come crawling out of the sewers, and everybody's like, whoa! And the adventurers just dive in and get mucky and chop them up. And it's like, hey, look at this, and they pull out some pulsating organ and stab into it, and some coins pour out of it. They're like, yay, we're rich, drinks on the house. Throw these filthy coins on the bar top, and the bartender's like, Gorgon was their leader. Oh, the Gorgon Planeswalker. No, I don't think so. What tips can you give people who are making their first homebrewed world? What is the process that you go through? How much do you make up on the spot? A lot. I make up a lot. So there's, like, Ian and I are very, very good friends, and we feed off each other's ideas really well. But we also recognize that we have very different world building and campaign planning systems. The way that we run games, campaigns, are quite different from each other. Ian likes prophecies and big cosmic events and things, and gods getting involved, and characters working to save the world, and they usually follow some sort of a path. So he's got more of a logical sort of track for his stories and things, which is great because you get objectives and goals, and you know that you're on the path to fix things. So yeah, so more structured. My games are more of a sandbox that I drop encounters and things onto, and I set things in motion which the players have got to figure out, and quite often they don't. They don't figure out what's going on because I don't explain everything to them. And so I use a lot of random roll tables and things like that because I like to play the game as well. And my part of playing the game as a dungeon master is let's roll on a table and see what happens. Or I ask for suggestions from the players for minor stuff to write themselves into the story or write the story for me. And I just riff off what they're telling me. Also, when players inevitably sit around and theorize on what's the worst or best thing that can happen, I feed off that as well. Of course, every DM should. When it comes to actually planning out the game world and stuff, usually I'll start with a map. In this case, we started off with this great big world map, and we had some conditions in mind. But it was just a huge big blank map with a huge big continent and a few islands and some major islands, 3 major islands around it. And where I put my coffee cup and it made a coffee stain on the map, that became a feature of the map, and various other bits and pieces. And then we just sat down for an hour at a time and we filled in the map, and just this world just built in our heads. And we sort of engaged in an exercise of topping each other. So he would give me some sort of idea and I would make that more outlandish, and he would tell me some other aspect of it, and then we'd outdo each other for the weirdness and uniqueness of it, to the point where we've got ideas in this game world of Scythrune that I've never seen anywhere else at all. So we are probably going to publish it at some point, but what we want to do is we want to run campaigns in it individually. So I'll have my version of Scythrune, he'll have his version of Scythrune. So they start to divert away from each other and become Scythrune A and Scythrune B, and then when our campaigns are over, or they've been going for a significant period of time, we'll swap notes and recombine them back into Scythrune C. Hey, hello from Serbia. How's it going, Vukasin? I will keep up the excellent work, thank you. Thank you, Justin. AJ, my big undead boy Calzinade still on the Patreon videos to come list. Oh, thanks for reminding me. I can get onto that, thankfully. Cal's Raynad. So, yes. So this is campaign take place in no, it's not in the Far Realm. It's separated from the main multiverse, but it's not outside of the multiverse. It's not like Ebron, which exists in a pocket of the deep ethereal. So Scythrune exists in the multiverse as a sphere, but it's cut off from the gods. Thank you, Morgan. Can you make a Mind Flayer arch enemy to Yubtub? Yes, I could. How about Yubtub's got a parasite? and the enemy is within Yub-Tub. I can see both gnomes and dwarves having mechs, however one would be flesh-based and the other mechanical for the setting of Sithroon. Yeah, actually, so on the map of Sithroon, the dwarves exist on a big an island mountain which has been hollowed out, and there's this great big massive chain which they have mined to create a hydroelectric power scheme, essentially, that holds back the ocean, and they run it between there to create power. And on the other side of that is kind of this slag heap where they've dumped all their industrial waste on the mainland, which borders X-Poison. How's it going? They dump all their toxic waste on the borders of the land of the gnomes, and the gnomes have become more mutated as a result of it. So in Pathfinder, for instance, gnomes have quite often got like pink or purple hair and different coloured eyes and things like that. In Sithroon, gnomes have quite often got a third eye and 6 fingers on one hand and little things like that. And what they've done is they've turned that disruption of nature into a weaponized form. So kind of like in Magic the Gathering, the big green monsters. That's exactly what the gnomes do. They harness disrupted nature and they turn it against the dwarves, and the dwarves have responded by saying, look, the world is crazy, things are broken, we need law and order, and we will tame nature. So we will bring this under our mechanical heel, because we understand machines, we don't understand gods, sort of thing. So there's that, there's that conflict between nature and technology. Slardy parasite within Yub-Tub. No, because the Slardy came much later than Yub-Tub. Yub-Tub was around much earlier than the Slardy, because the Slardy are the what the Batrachi creator race evolved into. Spoiler alert. Hey, no problem, Jimmy. That's why I'm here. My group exited an underdark tunnel into a large pit and found an odd tube. They killed it, but now the villagers next to the pit are really upset because they have no garbage disposal. Well, the villagers could demand that the heroes go and find something like gelatinous cubes to take care of the garbage for them. Am I entering anything into that monster creating contest? No, I am not. The tapeworm hydra, yeah, something like that, like a neolithid sort of thing, a stomach neolithid. That could be his tongue thing that's sticking out. Imagine if his tongue, which has actually got a mouth on it, is actually a parasite of some kind, because it's got suckers and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, maybe. An abandoned library belonging to the Yithians could hold infinite cosmic horrors for mortals. Yes. One of the things I like about Sithroon is that for every 5 documents you find talking about ancient history, 4 of them are complete forgeries, complete fake, because libraries gain prestige by having books, and because it's so deadly and hard to find information, people just write fake information in books, and it gets swapped around in libraries and gains legitimacy. Kind of like a forgery artwork can get sold for millions of dollars. Or if anybody was watching that latest thing where Banksy, that was so fantastic. That was such perfect performance art. So he's at this great big prestigious, well, his artwork is at some great big prestigious art auction, and they sell the latest Banksy for millions and millions of pounds. And as soon as the auction goes and it's sold, the frame of it has got a shredder built into it, and it half shreds. Yeah, the artwork. Nobody had any idea what was going on. Oh, it was fantastic. The looks on the faces of these people. So, hats off to Banksy. That was brilliant. What a commentary, though, on the artistic ridiculousness. When I do my grand Forgotten Realms history, will I do monster ecology videos on the various Naga types? I think it's going to inform a lot of things. Like people who are watching the history, it will just naturally flow into doing ecologies on certain types of monsters because they all become very topical. So we'll probably do like ecology videos talking about ancient Netheril and the Ilmaskari Empire, and talking about different races of human beings across the planet. Like who the Hunan, for instance, are, and what happened in Narfell. Yubtub is an immortal patron of the Sentinel Islands. That would explain why they're so aggressive. One of the 5 dimensions was Nightmare Dimension. Yeah, it should be a really cool setting. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very, very enthusiastic about, yeah. The Banksy stint creased you. Yeah, creased me too. Oh, flatworm. Oh, yeah. I do like the idea of an interdimensional worm. That's pretty cool. Sea life will occasionally replace the tongues of fish. Yeah, that's true. Should be like a sentient cosmic louse. Serve as the reason Yubtub can't talk. Yeah. He doesn't need to talk anyway. He's got telepathy. Melt your brain. Could you recommend any sources for a bunch of mid-tier monsters that would dwell on a large river, say CR 6 to 12? Thanks, pal. 6 to 12 is actually really quite high for sea life, for river life. So we're talking giant caimans and snapping turtles, electric eels, freshwater clams, I suppose, freshwater dolphins, manatees, some sort of parasitic whelp, giant snails, gastropods, possibly predatory plants, watercress, poisonous lilies, and of course fae. Sorry, Kedron. 73 people can't see their comment. Sea lice, yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I quite like the Naga video. I actually, I'd say my favourite most recent video would be the Troglodyte video. I really had a lot of fun doing that one. Universal tapeworm in the bowels of the universe. How do you design your maps for encounters? Do you draw them out, have an image in your head, or something else? Well, as I would suggest go and watch my video on how to run a D&D encounter, and you'll find that the monsters actually inform the map, not the other way around. So sometimes I'm inspired by a map, and sometimes I'm inspired by a monster to create a lair that best shows off and showcases and accentuates that monster's abilities. Like dragon lairs are a perfect example of you build the lair to fit the monster, not the other way around. Like you wouldn't put a fire giant in an ice cave. Doesn't really work very well unless you want the player characters to deal with melting ice and drowning and getting mired and stuff like that. Yeah, giant poisonous hell cone snails. Good idea. That's the sort of thing you'd find. Giant manatees, yeah. Also leeches. Dire leeches is another thing you could use. I'm going to have another Tim Tam. Cannot resist. Giant mutated bass. Yep, quippers. Swarms of quippers, of course. They're not very high CR, but if you combine them with other things, you can increase the CR by having just a lot of stuff. So it becomes a feeding frenzy, so to speak. Zaratan, yeah. Except not made out of stone. We're talking about appropriate encounters for rivers. Yeah, well, you take something like the blood draining ability of a sturge, apply it to a leech, have the leech big enough to actually pull you underwater. What is axe poison? Axe poison, there's some instances where poison was used to kill things which could not be poisoned. Like stat-wise, it said they're immune to poison, and yet they were killed by poison. So canonically, there is a poison which can kill anything, and that is called axe poison. Hey, Mr. Werewolf Dude, thank you. If I'm right, undead doesn't all the time need an evil creature to spawn them, but act as a natural, unnatural phenomenon that happens. They need negative energy for that to happen in the first place. So a good example is, say you're in a gas chamber in like a old concentration camp, and somebody's brought a dagger that sacrificed heaps of Mayan blood sacrifices to, and they've inscribed some thingy on the top of a stone slab, and then somebody puts a corpse in there overnight. In D&D, pretty good chance that that's going to rise as an undead, because it's just absorbed all this ambient negative energy. Excuse me. So it's a D&D thing. What's the deal with the uptub? I don't know. Gross salamander. Oh yeah, giant salamanders. River newts. Poison frogs. What do you think of a pixie mixed with a vampire, as in creature-wise? You could have a version of that, I suppose. The vampire bit doesn't really translate into every single species. Because pixies are fey. They don't have a normal physiology. They're not usually vulnerable to becoming vampires. But story trumps facts. It was a meme, yeah. Three giant butterflies? You killed your party with 3 giant butterflies. Really? Oh yeah, so axe poison is kind of a meme as well. But the lore of axe poison is evolving slowly but surely. You got rejected by a leech. Forever alone. I'm so unwanted, even leeches don't want to drink my blood. I saw something, somebody mentioned something about something that keyed in an idea of what, there's something in the errata here that reminded me. True resurrection, there's a new sentence at the end of the second paragraph. If the creature was undead, it is restored to its non-undead form. So you can use true resurrection to resurrect an undead creature to its former living self. That means that if you come across a skeleton, for instance, and a skeleton is just bones which are inhabited by this evil spirit thing. So the entity inside the skeleton bones that's animating it is not the original soul of whatever creature that was. So the act of casting true resurrection on those bones will actually regenerate them into a living person and expel whatever that evil entity was that was animating the bones away. So, if you are running a game where vampires are evil entities that have taken over the bodies of former people, then that would work too. You would banish the vampire soul forever and resurrect it as a living person. Or it's a means of curing vampirism by essentially resurrecting them. Yeah, a cure to defeat Count Strahd. Exactly. Hey, Bryce. Well, the Atropal was never alive. That's a tricky thing. So Atropals can't be resurrected. The other thing is, what was it? Something with 0 hit points cannot be polymorphed. If you got exactly 0 hit points, can't be polymorphed. Yeah, good way to piss off a lich. True. How am I? I'm good, thank you. What type of creatures do you think would be vulnerable to the vampire curse besides humanoids? Okay, so I think possibly something like minotaurs, barriers, which aren't humanoids. So centaurs. Centaurs would possibly be vulnerable to becoming a vampire. Could you have a vampire Aarakocra? Nasties to fill your river, the C&D show. In the books, all the priestess of Loth needs is a hair or even a finger to perform a true resurrection. Yeah, true. What is the orb of destruction? Oh, so it's kind of like a ball of concentrated negative energy, I suppose you could say. In the negative energy plane, it's not all the same. It's not like a homogeneous force of negative energy. There's some areas of concentration where you get these crystals of negative energy. Stream ended? No, still should be going. No! Am I not live? I should be. Our stream resumed. Must have dropped. Welcome back. Took a break for our sponsor. Welcome back, everyone. Yeah, we've got quite a few people in here right now, I think. 73 people. Popping in with 13.5 messages per minute. Oh, we've lost 10 people. Come back! No! Yeah, just reload if it doesn't work. Unfortunately, the internet just went a bit low bandwidth there for a second. I don't know why. Am I wearing a shoe as a hat? No, it's an actual hat. Hang on a second. There you go, is that better? Vampire Giants. Yeah, you have to refresh it. My my stream on my thing is frozen as well. I'll just drop the resolution on it. There we go. You don't have to refresh the entire page. You can just change the resolution on the image, on the video playback. What's the difference between a vampire gnoll and a regular gnoll? A vampire gnoll would be a vampire. It would be a blood-drinking horror, an undead thing. The interesting thing is that gnolls have kind of got undeath built into them. It was almost like a sort of an orcusy thing to them, but they are just the spawn of Yenogu. So, yeah. Oh, the hat. It's just a... Oh, it just arrived today actually. I'm still figuring out whether I like it or not. I'm not entirely sure. It's a bit small for me. This one's like a better size. Almost 20 likes. Yeah, well, in the world of Eberron, the Coatls are living prisons for demon lords. Wow, there's some major lag on this stream. Let's put it on double speed. Who's the most powerful demon lord? That would be Demogorgon. Mind you, he's a demon prince, I suppose. So next on the list would probably be Orcus and Grast on a kind of equal footing. A vampire Ettercap, kind of the same thing, really. No leg on your side, good. It's good to know. Can we see the shoe hat on backwards? No, it looks awful. Vampire Shadow Dragon, both natural and template. Yeah, thanks Chris, by the way. You want to see the shoe hat on backwards? Alright. Feels like a dorky configuration for a hat. It's called a Gatsby hat. Interesting. Yeah, vampires already feed like vampires. I'm sorry, spiders already feed like vampires, so... You just got to the cabin. Have fun, Bryce. Have a good weekend. You're going to be on Discord later tonight? Okay, I'll probably see you there. Vampire Varguil. Cabbie hat. Yeah. It's not built for going, it's for sitting backwards. Apparently, vampires. Let's see, what else have we got on the errata? In Dwarven combat training, throwing hammer has been changed to light hammer. Drow magic once per day has been changed to when you finish a long rest. That's because you may be in environments where there's no day, but you still have short and long rests. Opinion on the Dominaria Magic the Gathering setting. Well, Dominaria is the default setting for Magic the Gathering. It was for the longest time. It was only relatively recently that they started expanding into different domains. So Dominaria is like the major world of Magic the Gathering. That's where most of their storylines center around. So incredibly complicated. Lots of different environments, lots of different nations. Lots of stories. Oh, yeah, that hat looks awful. Went on backwards. Shadow dragons are the ones that are stuck in the Shadowfell for too long and they start to absorb Shadowfell-ness. How often do I game? Twice a week. A tricorn hat or bust. Oh, Dominaria setting as for a D&D campaign. Yep. You would need a lot of resources. Like I haven't really investigated whether there's any world maps and stuff like that of Dominaria. And it would be ideal, obviously, as a time travel campaign setting as well. A bowler hat for you. So if you're time traveling in Dominaria, that'd be quite cool. because we know that time travel is a large part of the Magic the Gathering timeline and storyline because of Khan, the silver golem. Undead that hunt and eat vampires, yeah. Well, there's demons that eat undead. That reminds me, I've got to get another demon video out soon. What demon should we do next, do you think? Shall we go a classic one, or shall we go a weird one? What do you reckon? I've got so many to do. We could do the Alu Demon or the Cambion. Pretty sure Cambion would be pretty popular. Or Hezrao for a classic. See you later, William. Or we could do a Zowat or a Jovok. Arrow Demons also. They would follow a sort of logical progression. Or Varakia. I'm open to suggestions. Have we done Marilith? Yep, we have. There is a Tumblr called 5th edition card a day that makes Magic the Gathering cards into 5th edition material. Well, that's just brilliant. I'm going to definitely look that up. Dinosaur Day tomorrow? Come on! You want a weird one? Horned Devil. Have I not? I don't think I've done Horned Devil yet. I should keep... Yeah! I haven't done a Devil video for a while. Maybe it's time to return to the 9 Hells briefly. Do some more Devils. More Demons, yep. So I talked about the Exit Chittle in the Demogorgon video, right at the end of it, but they definitely deserve a video of their own, because a lot of people don't realise that Demogorgon has worshippers in the prime material plane on many worlds in the form of these intelligent evil manta rays called Exit Chittles. Oberith's a love, Oberith's a life. See you later, Grant. Yugoloths, yeah, and also the Demodans, which are another form of lower planes creature that's similar to Yugoloths, but not the same. Turkeys are dinosaurs, yeah. You just gotta look at their feet. Clearly dinosaurs. Is there an official TMG Twitter? Yes, there is. But I don't really tweet. I mean, if you want my opinion on something, you can make a comment on a video and I'll answer it. I have a community tab where I can talk to everybody who cares about what I say. Twitter is just like shouting into the wilderness. It's got insufficient feedback, insufficient means to communicate with people properly, and you see so many instances of people saying really stupid things on Twitter that I don't really want to, like, it's inevitable that I say something that offends somebody on Twitter, so I just don't want to do it. Would Doom Guy count as a fiend? I don't know who Doom Guy is. See you later, Keykeeper. Delicious dinosaurs, yeah. Durzagon. Durzagon? I don't believe I've seen a Durzagon. You'll need to message me with the source for the Durzagon, because I'm not familiar with that one. Doom Guy is a protagonist of Doom, human. Dr. Doom? Oh, the guy from the first-person shooter called Doom. Zagya and Zagye, or Enegons collectively, are damn cool. Yeah, I talked about them in the videos on the positive and negative planes. You shouted into the void shouted back. Oh yeah, the Queen of Chaos. What's with the Robin Hood cap? I don't know, I'm just trying out a different hat. Alex Jones is the Doom guy. The frogs are key! Alex Jones. So... Wild Magic Surge. Starting with the second sentence, the section now reads, once per turn, the DM can have you roll a d20 immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell of first level or higher. If you roll a 1, roll on the Wild Magic Surge table to create a magical effect. If that effect is a spell, it is too wild to be affected by your meta magic. And if it normally requires concentration, it doesn't require concentration. In this case, the spell lasts for its full duration, whether you want it to or not. Interesting. The Ranger's Companion. This is something that's going to be in the second half of the Ranger video. The following sentence has been added to the end of the first paragraph. Like any creature, the beast can spend hit dice during a short rest, so they can heal themselves. A new third paragraph has been inserted. If you are incapacitated or absent, the beast acts on its own, focusing on protecting you and itself. The beast never requires your command to use its reaction, such as when making an opportunity attack. In the second sentence of the second paragraph, the phrase that begins, though it doesn't take, has been deleted. In the third sentence of the second paragraph, dodge has been deleted. After that sentence, this one is added. If you don't issue a command, the beast takes the dodge action. So, and with the Beastmaster Ranger, they're talking about whether this creature acts independently or not, and it only does so if Alex Jones is a frog. He kind of does look kind of bullfroggy. So whether your beast companion acts independently of you or not, or whether you can just order it to attack somebody and it will, it doesn't. It just defends you and itself, and it uses the dodge action if at all possible, because it's an animal. It doesn't necessarily want to attack something that's not food, sort of thing. When you gaze into the abyss sues you for stalking. Azuvidexis. I can look it up. I suppose. Panda. Be a pleasure. Durzagon was an offspring of a devil and the Dwager. Oh, okay. Skeleton Man. Sapient Sphere of Annihilation. Oof. So there's Hellfire and the Plume. The Plume is very interesting. I thought that was fascinating. But what about Devilish Lightning or Acid? What would you call those? Devilish Lightning. Thought Fire. What would I call Acid? Bartorian Bile. Deep Bile. Famous warlocks out there. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look that up, I think. No, your comment's visible, Shadow. Sorry, Nicholas. Shadow banned. Did I get shadow banned? Manchun and Vizul. Yep. Yeah, Alex Jones is a bullywug. So you can find them on the Wizards of the Coast website. So they've got them all listed there for everybody. There's this is the errata for the Player's Handbook, but there's also a errata for the Monster Manual and a errata for the Dungeon Master's Guide. Obviously, the Player's Handbook is the most important. but there's additions to like all the sorcerers and the warlock and the rogue. So for the rogue, new spell slots on page 98 is in the first sentence, your spells is now your wizard spells. Little change. Fighter feigning attack. The second sentence now reads, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature this turn. So little things like that. Your spells is now your wizard spells. So they've made minor grammatical corrections to things to make them clearer. They've tried to improve the definition of what a ranger's animal companion can do. They talk about the Pact of the Tome. Starting with the second sentence in the first paragraph now reads, you can gain this feature, choose 3 cantrips from any class's spell list. The 3 don't need to be from the same list. While the book is on your person, you can cast those cantrips at will. They don't count against your number of cantrips known. If they don't appear in the Warlock spell list, they are nonetheless Warlock spells for you. In Eldritch Invocations, the following sentence has been added to the end of the first paragraph. A level prerequisite refers to your level in that class instead of your general level. So, just clarifications mainly. Fiendish Fulminos. Soulstorm for demonic lightning, yep, and liquid ire for demonic acid. Good. Maybe a video on Malconthet. Perhaps you should check my playlist. You seem to be missing out on a few of them. Thanks, Joshua. The Abyss is alive, the other planes aren't necessarily alive. The outer planes are more alive than the inner planes. But, that being said, the inner planes are the domain of energy beings called elementals. So they suffuse the planes that they are a part of. So imagine if you had the concept of animism, where inanimate objects have a life force and a spirit of their own. That is literally true in the inner planes, the elemental planes. So if you remove that spirit and put it into the prime material universe, then it becomes an elemental. So they have their own energetic landscape that they can interact with, which is wholly foreign to us locked form creatures. You will, Matt, yeah. Current subject of conversation, it's all over the place at the moment, actually. Hey, Matt. Yep, I've got it listed down. Zuvadectus. Compound longbow. So the main thing that a compound longbow does is it extends the short range to long range. Past long range, you get a problem with being able to see the target. So, yeah. You should stream your homeworld. No, I can't stream the homebrew world game because that's with my personal private friends. And we talk about private life stuff. And yeah, I only broadcast games where everybody agrees to participate. Like for instance, sometimes the energy level is really low on those games, and people are like tired from working all week. That's why we start at 7. So start at 7, everybody's having dinner, and then by 10 the game is over. Yeah, compound bows are not too tricky. It's mainly got to do with range. Yeah, they hold at full draw. Compound bows are quite hard to like get that draw in initially, and then you can hold that draw for a while. Maybe a bit about what crazy obscenity you found researching Malconthit. No, you don't want to see that. That'll get my channel demonetized. Yeah, you're on the right track there, Carlos. So Elder Elementals in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes is basically how Belors and other demon lords came about eating other elementals. Yeah, so they kind of consume each other. The demons kind of consume each other. The Adventure Zone podcast, no. So elementals kind of consume each other to get larger and stronger as well. So you'd imagine that a elemental lord is actually composed of thousands and thousands of smaller integrated entities. It's one of the reasons why demons' corruption of physical material is so dangerous, because they're infusing the spirits of kind of elemental spirits. Hey Marv Ellis. Hispanic people are spicy white people. Hashtag hot takes. Hot takes? Hotakis? Hotakis. Allows you to add your strength modifier to the damage if my memory serves me correctly. Yeah, but when you think about it, okay, it amplifies the strength of the bow shot, but you don't have to have like any additional strength you have above what is just required to draw the bowstring. Doesn't translate into the mechanical action of firing an arrow. So under no circumstances would your strength bonus apply, unless it could only be drawn with somebody who has a strength bonus of that particular number, in which case it would confer it to anybody who can do that mechanically as well. So if you dialed up the difficulty of drawing the bow, then yeah. But otherwise, meh. Drow versus Githyanki, who wins 1-on-1? Githyanki. Yeah, also Githyanki have psychic powers. Oh, I'm gonna have to end the stream, guys. I've actually been up all night working. Oh, I use doppelgangers all the time. Yeah, using fire elementals as a source of energy is a no-brainer, for sure. But therein lies the problem. I mean, if your generator breaks down in the mundane world, no problem, you know. You just refuel it or whatever. But if your generator breaks down in the D&D world, you can have an angry fire elemental on the loose. Fiendish Lightning is called Soul Scream. Yeah, that's pretty good. Fare thee well all. So yeah, go and check out the errata. And remember, anybody who is buying the box sets of, like the gift sets of the 3 core books. Yeah, I'm much less bright-eyed, I'm afraid. Sorry to say. So if you buy the core books this month, we're on the 10th. We're over the 10th printing of D&D 5th edition now, which is just mind-boggling. 10th print run. And they haven't fixed the books yet. But they have errated them. If only they errated the printing process. Soul Scream sounds like a demonic sonic attack. Soul Scream's the name of my rock band. It's probably actually already that's such a cool name for a rock band. There's probably already one. I'll go and look that up. Alrighty. Catch you later, everybody. Have a good day. It's been a good time as per usual. Enjoy your games. Be nice to each other. Don't stress the small stuff. Don't drink axe poison. In the enemies rightly. Oh, yeah, I've checked out Adventure Zone. I'm just not an Adventure Zone watcher. Maybe one day, if I've got nothing better to do.